Okay, it's throwback weekend at Darlington Motor Speedway and going over the race preview and initial thoughts for the Cup Series. So, our Xfinity Series and Truck Series previews are up depending on what time you're watching this. Those may or may not still be relevant. If not, maybe our picks videos for them might be relevant. So, usually we do preview video coming into the weekend, and then we'll do a quick final picks video once practice and qualifying is done, giving you a little bit more of a clear indication of, kind of the way that we're leaning in some of the guys that we like and don't like and the reasoning for some of that stuff. But looking at this Cup Series slate, yeah, like I said, it's throwback weekend. It's one of my favorite weekends of the schedule, just because it's cool to see all the paint schemes kind of live back. Some of the memories and throw it back to some of the old paint schemes. So looking forward to having those cars out on track. It is kind of an intermediate track. It's a 1.33 mile egg shaped oval, really unique track that we go to. Not really too many other tracks on the circuit you can really compare it to. But it is a little bit more of an intermediate. 293 laps, so quite a significant amount more than the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series race, which is only 147. So because of that, there's even more dominator points up for grabs like there normally is when the Cup Series comes around. So 91.75 for laps led and 165.15 for fast laps. So pretty significant chunk of dominator points. You definitely want to try to focus and try to get some, maybe 3 to 4 drivers in your line who have the ability to, lead laps, pick up fast laps. We'll go over some of those guys who I think potentially could run well. And as far as data, and this has been a question that we've been getting a couple of times, throughout the season of, hey, what are you really looking at? Are you focusing on track history? Are you focusing on, similar tracks? Are you only focusing on practice and qualifying? Like, how are you really picking, between these drivers? And, at least for this weekend, I think the Cup Series, and I guess really NASCAR as a whole, really hasn't gone to too many intermediate tracks. They've been to, I don't even remember which ones they went to. I guess, I went to Dover last weekend, which I was there. It was super fun. 2 days because of Mother Nature extended the trip, which, hey, got an extra day of racing in. But, Dover, I would say, is kind of an intermediate. And then I think Las Vegas, I want to say, was the other track really early in the season. But so I would really just focus on, this year, especially because it's a new car. So I'd focus on the 2022 intermediate track. So probably, like I said, I think it was Las Vegas and Dover. And then really, I still think practice and qualifying is really what you should be focusing on. So I'm using practice and qualifying to really kind of make our decisions. And then if we're like in between a driver or, 2 or 3 drivers, then as a second, source of information, we'll go and look at the 2022 intermediate data, at least for this weekend. And if we still can't figure it out, then maybe we'll go to track history. But these cars they just race different. That what you did in the old car isn't always going to correlate and translate to this new car. So we've seen drivers perform really well at tracks that we thought, hey, this is a really bad track for them, or hey, this is a really good track for this driver, and then they don't perform well, so the opposite can go. It's true either way. One thing that's kind of been true so far this season, and DraftKings has it right, but look from Alex Bowman all the way up to Kyle Larson there, especially the team names. I mean, what do you see? Hendrick, JGR, Hendrick, Trackhouse, Hendrick. These are, and it's really only been Ross Chastain, but these are really the 3 teams I think you really want to focus on and build around. Not that, Penske or RCR or Stuart Haas, has been irrelevant, but when you look at the teams that are actually running well, running up front, winning these races, leading laps, picking up fast laps, it's been Hendrick, it's been JGR, and it's been Ross Chastain. So coming into this weekend, I don't really want to go against that narrative. I think, the optimal lineup is probably to come from some combination, at least of the top range of maybe two to three of those drivers who work out, on Sunday. And it's hard coming into this week and saying, oh, it's definitely going to be Kyle Larson, and it's no way that it's going to be Denny Hamlin. Like, all of these drivers have shown flashes of speed, throughout the year, and in especially at Dover and the other intermediate Las Vegas, track that we went to. So I know it's a lot of drivers highlighted, but seriously, it's really that wide open. So just use practice and qualifying, and we'll post our thoughts and show you which ways we're going. Because unless you're building multiple lines, you can't play all these drivers, and you're going to have different ownerships and exposures to, some more than others. But Larson, Elliott, Truex, Hamlin, Byron, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman. I want to try to get probably at least 3 of those drivers in my line. Maybe 2 if I feel really confident about it. Maybe even potentially 4. I haven't even built lines yet. I don't even know if that's possible if you double punt, but just love the value that you get, because as you start to get lower on the slate, it just gets harder and harder to picture these drivers getting out front and leading laps. I think, Blaney has been the best of the Penske cars, but Penske didn't really run too well at Dover last week. And I know, all of them kind of had their own issues, but even before they had those issues, even in practice and qualifying, they didn't really have, that speed that you expected that team to have. RCR really struggled. That was kind of a whiff. Hopefully they're able to turn it around, but that is a little scary, just seeing how poorly they just ran and then trying to come right back to them on another, type of intermediate track. So they're really going to have to show it to us in practice and qualifying to have us, change our thoughts, at least initially, on them. Kevin Harvick, I think, is a good value play. He necessarily won't get up there and lead you laps. He might not pick up the fast laps, but he's consistently going to, be running in that top 10 or fighting for maybe a top 8. So depending on where he qualifies, I think he can give you a lot of good value there. And then we just talked about all the teams that have been killing it, and you look how expensive they all are. And, kind of the one outlier would be Christopher Bell and the JGR, at $8,300. So, maybe this is the week that he runs well. He's shown good speed. It's just been having, issues. Same with Hamlin. Like, Hamlin's been having relatively good speed during the race. Just, things keep happening to him. So he might be an interesting driver if you're able to, play maybe 3 of these guys and then come down and grab a Christopher Bell as like your 4th. His dominating upside is probably minimal, but, at least I could see it happening. RFK ran a lot better last weekend, so I'm kind of interesting to see how they run. Eric Almirola, I think he's interesting value-wise at $7,500. Chris Buescher got out there and led some laps, and even later on in the race, showed flashes of having good speed. I know that when that wheel came off, or the tire came off for, I think it was AJ Allmendinger at the time, I know it kind of jumbled up the slate a little bit, and he might have been one of those drivers who got caught a lap down. I don't recall. But regardless, he showed some good pace. Stenhouse really showed up last weekend too, but he's been running terribly. So, unless he can show it to us again in practice and qualifying, I'm a little hesitant to go there. And then if you are playing, just like we talked about in the Xfinity series, if you are playing some of these, really top expensive guys, you're going to have to come down here in the value range. We're still seeing a lot of cautions and, more cars DNFing or at least having issues than we have in the past. So don't rule out, a Landon Castle, a Corey LaJoy, JJ Yaley, a BJ McLeod, a Cody Ware, especially if they start like DFL, and it allows you to get, another, Alex Bowman type of play in your lineup. Especially because if they start that deep, you can at least maybe project them for, pass at least 5-6 cars if some of these cars have issues or blow a tire, get into the wall, or have a mechanical problem or something. And yeah, maybe they're not picking up you a ton of laps, but hey, if you're able to upgrade from a driver who's just more of a value play and a finishing potential play, and potentially get a guy who has dominator upside, there's a lot more upside to your lineup by doing that. But I think Todd Gilliland and Ty Dillon would be the 2 initial guys who would be high on coming into the weekend. So we'll see. I mean, I think the narrative is, use your core drivers of Hendrick, some combination of Hendrick drivers, JGR drivers, and probably Ross Chastain. Probably 2 to 3 of those guys in the line, maybe 4. Maybe try to get some good value out of Kevin Harvick and Christopher Bell. Same with Keselowski and Almirola. If you can't get up to Bell and Harvick, and then come down to this punt range, and Todd Gilliland's probably going to have a lot of ownership, but he didn't run well last weekend. But we know he kind of got issues into practice, which kind of ruined his race. And Ty Dillon's been running pretty well, as in addition to Todd Gill. And so that's kind of initially the thought process, the lineup construction that we have coming into the week. A lot of it can change. We'll get this uploaded on Sunday morning. We'll get our picks video recorded probably Saturday night, get that one posted. So really, really busy weekend of NASCAR DFS ahead of us, but should be a fun one.